He thought his past was buried until he saw her again, standing in the rain, clutching two little hands, with nowhere to sleep. Michael Allen, a millionaire who had everything, froze on that dark Montego Bay street. Because the woman shivering under that flickering streetlight wasn't just anyone. It was Ella, the love he lost years ago. And those twins beside her? They had his eyes. But what Michael didn't know is that Ella's disappearance years ago wasn't an accident. Someone made sure she'd vanish. Hey beautiful souls. Welcome back to the channel. Before we dive into this emotional journey, drop a comment below and let me know where in the world you are watching from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button now because you're about to experience a story that'll leave you breathless. Trust me, you don't want to miss this story. Michael's driver kept talking about the route to the resort, but the words dissolved into white noise. Because Ella Dawson, the only woman who'd ever made him believe in forever, was standing in the rain with nowhere to go. The children. God, the children. They couldn't have been more than 6 years old. Twins, by the look of them. A boy and a girl with tight curls plastered to their foreheads, their small hands gripping shopping bags that sagged with whatever possessions they owned. 7 years. It had been 7 years since that night in Kingston when everything fell apart. 7 years since he'd gotten that phone call, the one that destroyed them. 7 years since he'd left Jamaica swearing he'd never come back. And now here he was, a millionaire returning to the island that had broken him, only to find that Ella had been broken too. Stop the car, Michael heard himself say. His driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Sir? We're almost at the... Stop the damn car. The SUV jerked to a halt. Through the window, Michael watched Ella pull the children closer as a group of men stumbled past from a nearby bar. She turned her body into a shield, her spine straight despite everything. Still proud. Still fierce. Still beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. He reached for the door handle, then froze. What would he even say to her? Hi Ella. Remember me? The man you betrayed? The fool who loved you until it nearly killed him? But then the little girl looked up, and even through the rain and distance, Michael saw her face. His breath caught. Those eyes. That jawline. The distinctive shape of her mouth. No. It couldn't be. Michael Allen hadn't built a $50 million tech empire by hesitating. He'd built it by trusting his gut, taking calculated risks, and never looking back at the wreckage he left behind. But Ella Dawson wasn't wreckage. She was the one thing he'd never been able to calculate his way past. 8 years ago, he'd been nobody, just another American programmer who'd come to Jamaica for a 3-month contract job with a Kingston software company. He'd had $1,200 in his bank account, a laptop held together with duct tape, and a dream that everyone back in Brooklyn called delusional. Then he'd met Ella at a street festival in New Kingston, and suddenly Jamaica wasn't just a job. It was home. She'd been a teacher at a primary school, 24 years old with a laugh that could light up the darkest room. She loved poetry, terrible American action movies, and the way the ocean looked at sunrise. She'd believed in him when he was still learning to believe in himself. They'd fallen in love the way people do in songs, completely, recklessly, without a safety net. He'd planned to marry her. Had the ring picked out and everything. A simple band from a jeweler in Ocho Rios, because Ella didn't care about expensive things. She cared about truth. About loyalty. About the promises people made when no one else was listening. Until that night. The phone call. Michael's business partner, David Chudnovsky, calling at 2 in the morning. Michael, man, I'm sorry, but there's something you need to know about Ella. I saw her tonight at the Pegasus Hotel with someone. A man. They were close. Really close. Then came the photos. Ella in a red dress he'd never seen before, her hand on another man's chest. Ella laughing with a man Michael didn't recognize. Ella getting into a Mercedes with Kingston plates while Michael was working 16-hour days to build something for their future. He'd confronted her the next morning. She'd cried, denied everything, begged him to listen. But the evidence was there, cold and digital. His partner, his trusted friend, had no reason to lie. So Michael had left. Blocked her number. buried himself in code and ambition until the pain turned into fuel. Within 3 years, his app had gone viral. Within 5, he'd sold it for $43 million. Within 7, he'd built 2 more companies and a reputation as the tech genius who never mixed business with pleasure. He'd convinced himself he was over her. But now, standing in the Montego Bay rain, watching her hold those children like they were the only thing keeping her standing, Michael felt every carefully constructed wall crumble. The little girl who looked like... No, he wouldn't think it. Couldn't think it. "Sir." His driver's voice cut through his spiral. "Are you getting out?" Before Michael could answer, Ella's head turned. Maybe she felt the weight of his stare. Maybe it was instinct. But her eyes found his through the rain-soaked window, and the world stopped spinning. Recognition flashed across her face. Shock, then something that looked like panic. She grabbed both children's hands and turned away, moving quickly down the street. Running from him. Just like he'd once run from her. Michael was out of the SUV before his brain caught up to his body. "Ella! Wait!" She didn't stop. Didn't even slow down. Just kept walking with those children, her shoulders hunched against more than just the rain. He'd spent 7 years becoming the kind of man who could have anything he wanted. Private jets. Penthouse apartments. Meetings with presidents and CEOs. But he couldn't make Ella Dawson turn around. "Please," he called out, his voice breaking on the word. "Just, please." She stopped, her back still to him. The children looked up at her, confused and scared. The rain fell harder. And slowly, so slowly it hurt, Ella turned around. Her face was older, thinner, marked by struggles he couldn't begin to imagine. But her eyes were the same. Deep brown and full of secrets. "Michael," she said quietly. Just his name. Nothing else. "What happened to you?" The question escaped before he could stop it. Something flickered in her expression. Pride. Maybe. Or pain. "Nothing that concerns you anymore. Those children are none of your business." Her voice was steel wrapped in velvet. The same voice that used to whisper she loved him in the dark. The little boy tugged on her dress. "Mama, me hungry." "Mama." The word hit Michael like a fist to the stomach. He looked at the children again. Really looked. They were maybe 6, possibly 7. Which meant, how old are they? His voice sounded distant, foreign. Ella's jaw tightened. "Michael, please. Just go back to your fancy car and whatever brought you to Montego Bay. We're fine. You're standing in the rain with nowhere to go. You're not fine. We've been not fine for a long time. We'll survive tonight the same way we survived every other night." She turned away again. "Goodbye, Michael." If you're feeling the emotion in this story, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't believe what's about to unfold. "I have a villa," Michael blurted out. "At the Round Hill Resort. 4 bedrooms. Just, at least get out of the rain. For them." He nodded toward the twins, who were shivering now. Ella stopped. Her shoulders rose and fell with a deep breath. "Why would you help us?" "Because," Michael's throat tightened. "Because I never stopped loving you. Because those children have my eyes. Because I need to know what really happened. Because it's the right thing to do." For a long moment, she didn't move. The rain drummed against the pavement. Car horns blared in the distance. Somewhere, reggae music thumped from a speaker. Then the little girl coughed, a wet, rattling sound that made Ella's face crumple with worry. "Just for tonight," Ella whispered. "Just until the rain stops." Michael nodded, not trusting his voice. As they walked back to the SUV, he noticed things. The way Ella limped slightly on her left leg. The way the boys' shoes were 2 sizes too big. The way both children stayed silent, too well-behaved for kids their age. The way the girl's hand, when she climbed into the car, had the same long fingers as Michael's mother. His driver pulled away from the curb, and in the rearview mirror, Michael caught Ella's reflection. She was staring out the window, tears mixing with rain on her cheeks. And he knew, with a certainty that terrified him, that everything he thought he knew about their past was about to be rewritten. The Round Hill Villa was everything Ella's life wasn't. Pristine white walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Caribbean, furniture that probably cost more than she'd earned in the past 2 years. The children stood frozen in the entrance, afraid to touch anything. "The bathroom's down that hall," Michael said, his voice careful, controlled. "There are robes, towels. I'll order food." Ella nodded stiffly. "Thank you. We'll be gone in the morning." "Ella. Please don't." She held up a hand. "Don't ask questions I can't answer." But Michael had spent 7 years building empires by asking the questions no one else would. "What are their names?" Ella's hand tightened on the children's shoulders. For a moment, he thought she wouldn't answer. Then, quietly, Aliyah and Andre. Beautiful names. They were named after people who mattered. Something in her tone made it clear the conversation was over. She ushered the twins down the hallway, leaving Michael alone with his racing thoughts. He ordered room service, curry chicken, rice and peas, festival, enough food for a week. Then he paced the living room like a caged animal, his mind calculating timelines he didn't want to calculate. 7 years since he left Jamaica. The twins looked 6, maybe 7. Which meant, no. David had shown him proof. Photos. Evidence. Ella had been with someone else. But what if he'd been wrong? 20 minutes later, the children emerged in oversized hotel robes, their hair still damp. They sat at the dining table with wide eyes when the food arrived, waiting for permission. "Go ahead," Ella said softly. "Eat." They devoured the meal like they hadn't eaten in days. Maybe they hadn't. Michael watched Ella push food around her plate, barely eating. She'd lost weight. A lot of it. And there was a scar above her left eyebrow that hadn't been there before. "When did you leave Kingston?" he asked. Ella's fork stopped midair. "Does it matter?" "It matters to me." "Why?" She finally looked at him, and the pain in her eyes was a living thing. "You made it clear 7 years ago that nothing about me mattered anymore. You left without even letting me explain. You were with another man." The words exploded out of him before he could stop them. The children froze. Andre's eyes went wide with fear. Ella's face went pale, then red. She stood up slowly, her hands shaking. "Aliyah, Andre, go watch TV in the bedroom. Now." They scrambled away without arguing. Once they were gone, Ella turned on Michael with a fury he'd never seen from her. "You want to do this? Fine. Let's do this." "What man, Michael? Tell me. What man did you think I was with?" "David saw you. At the Pegasus Hotel. You were wearing a red dress." "A red dress?" She laughed, but it was a bitter, broken sound. "I never owned a red dress. I was a schoolteacher making 19,000 Jamaican a month. When exactly did you think I could afford a red dress and a night at the Pegasus?" Michael's stomach dropped. He had photos. "Did you look at them? I mean really look?" Ella's voice cracked. "Or did you just see what he wanted you to see?" "Why would David lie?" "Because he wanted you gone," Ella shouted. Then she pressed her hands to her face, breathing hard. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "He wanted you gone, and it worked." The room spun. "That doesn't make sense. David was my partner. My friend. David was in love with the business you were building. He didn't want you staying in Jamaica. Didn't want you distracted by a local girl who might make you choose her over your dreams." Ella's laugh was hollow. "He was right. Actually, you did choose your dreams. Just took a fake scandal to make it happen." "Show me your hands," Michael said suddenly. "What?" In the photos, the woman was wearing a bracelet. Silver, with a red stone. "Show me your hands." Ella held them out. No jewelry. No tan lines where jewelry had been. Her fingers were bare except for calluses and old scars. Michael's world tilted. "It wasn't you." "No, Michael. It wasn't me." Tears streamed down her face. "But you didn't love me enough to ask. You just..." believed him and left. I called you 63 times. Sent you 100 messages. You blocked me like I was nothing. Ella, I was pregnant. The words dropped like bombs. 2 months pregnant when you left. I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen. Wouldn't even look at me. Comment below if your heart is breaking right now, because this story is about to get even more intense. Michael couldn't breathe. The room, the villa, the entire world shrank to those 3 words. I was pregnant. The twins, he whispered. Don't. Ella's voice was sharp. Don't you dare come into our lives after 7 years and start claiming things you abandoned. I didn't know. You didn't care to know. There's a difference. She was shaking now, years of pain pouring out. I was alone, Michael. 24 years old, pregnant with twins, and alone. My family disowned me for being with a foreign man who left me in shame. I lost my job. Lost my apartment. Lost everything. Michael felt like he was drowning. Where have you been living? Anywhere we could. Shelters. Churches. Sometimes the street. She wiped her eyes angrily. I've been in Montego Bay for 6 months, working 2 jobs, cleaning hotels during the day, washing dishes at night. The room we were staying in, the landlord doubled the rent this week. I couldn't pay it. Why didn't you find me? I'm not hard to find. I've been in magazines, Forbes. Oh, I found you. Ella's smile was cruel. I found you 2 years ago. Saw your face on a tech blog. Michael Allen, millionaire genius who needs no one. I read an interview where you said you'd never marry, never have children, never let anyone distract you from success. She stepped closer. So tell me, Michael, what exactly was I supposed to do? Show up with 2 children you didn't want and beg the man who thought I was a cheater for child support? Shame burned through him. I would have helped. Based on what? Your track record of trusting me? Your stellar commitment to hearing my side of the story. She shook her head. I've raised Aliyah and Endre to survive without anyone's help. We don't need you. They are my children. The words felt foreign on his tongue. Terrifying. True. No. Ella's voice was ice. They're my children. You're just the DNA. From the bedroom, Aliyah's small voice called out, Mama? You okay? Ella took a shaky breath, composing herself. I'm fine, baby. She turned back to Michael. We'll sleep here tonight because they need rest. But tomorrow morning, we're gone. Don't try to find us. Don't try to fix this. You made your choice 7 years ago. She walked toward the bedroom, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, she said without turning around, I never stopped loving you. Even when I had every reason to hate you. Even when I was sleeping on benches with 2 babies wrapped in my arms. Even when I thought I'd die from the pain of missing you. Her voice broke. But love isn't enough when there's no trust. And you never trusted me at all. The bedroom door closed. Michael stood alone in the villa, surrounded by luxury that suddenly felt meaningless. He had 2 children. Twins. A son and a daughter who'd spent their entire lives without him. And the woman he'd never stopped loving had suffered horrors he couldn't imagine, because he trusted the wrong person. His phone was in his hand before he consciously decided to pick it up. He scrolled to a number he hadn't called in 2 years. David Chudnovsky answered on the 3rd ring. Michael, didn't expect to hear from you. How's Montego Bay? We need to talk, Michael said, his voice deadly calm. About what really happened 7 years ago in Kingston. The silence on the other end told him everything he needed to know. David's laugh was nervous. Michael, whatever you're thinking. Did you lie to me? Michael's voice could have cut glass. About Ella. About the photos. Did you lie? The pause lasted 3 seconds too long. It wasn't like that, man. I was looking out for you. Michael ended the call and threw his phone across the room. It shattered against the wall, pieces scattering across the marble floor like his entire past. For 7 years, he'd built his life on a foundation of lies. He didn't sleep that night. Just sat on the terrace watching the Caribbean moon paint silver across the water, thinking about Ella sleeping on park benches with 2 infants. Ella going hungry so the twins could eat. Ella working herself to exhaustion while he was buying his 3rd car. When dawn broke over Montego Bay, Michael made a decision. He wasn't letting them disappear. Ella woke to the smell of breakfast, ackee and saltfish, fried dumplings, fresh mango. For a moment, still caught between sleep and consciousness, she thought she was back in that tiny Kingston apartment she'd shared with Michael. Back when mornings meant his terrible cooking and his even worse jokes. Then Aaliyah stirred beside her, and reality crashed back. She found Michael in the kitchen, plating food with the intense concentration he used to reserve for coding. He'd changed clothes, linen shirt, rolled sleeves, but his eyes were red-rimmed. He hadn't slept either. "I called my lawyer," he said without preamble. "And my accountant. I'm setting up trust funds for Aaliyah and Andre. Full education coverage, healthcare, housing." "Stop." Ella's voice was flat. "We're not your charity case. They are my children. You can't buy back 7 years with trust funds, Michael." "I know that." He set down the spatula, and she saw his hands were shaking. "But I can make sure you never sleep on a street corner again. That they never go hungry. That's not charity, Ella. That's the bare minimum of what I owe you. You owe us nothing. We've survived this long. Survived isn't living." His voice rose, then broke. "God, Ella, do you know what it did to me? Seeing you like that? Knowing I could have prevented all of it if I just trusted you." Aaliyah appeared in the doorway, Andre hiding behind her. They both froze at the sound of raised voices. Michael noticed them immediately and his entire demeanor shifted. "Good morning," he said softly. "I made breakfast. Are you hungry?" Andre nodded but didn't move. Aaliyah studied Michael with eyes far too old for 6. "Is him really our father?" she asked in patois-inflected English. "The one you used to cry about?" Ella's face went crimson. "Aaliyah. Because you said our father was a good man who made a mistake." The little girl's gaze didn't waver from Michael. "You don't look like you made a mistake. You look like you made a choice." The silence was deafening. Michael crouched down to Aaliyah's eye level. "You're right. I did make a choice. The wrong choice. And your mama is a better person than me because she doesn't want you to know what a coward I was." "Are you rich?" Andre piped up suddenly. "Andre." Ella gasped. But Michael smiled, a sad, genuine smile. "Yeah, buddy. I am." "Then why you make mama cry so much if you could buy her things?" The question, so innocent, so devastating, made Michael's eyes water. "Because I was stupid. I believed a lie instead of believing in your mama. And I'm sorrier than you can possibly understand." If this story is hitting you in the feels, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment. Let me know, can Michael earn their forgiveness? Aaliyah considered this. Then, Mama says sorry is just a word. She says people show sorry with actions. "Your mama is a very smart woman," Michael said quietly. "So let me show you. What do you both need? School supplies? Clothes? Toys? A home," Aaliyah said simply. "So mama doesn't have to work 2 jobs. So she can sleep more. She coughs at night and thinks we don't hear." Ella's hand flew to her mouth. Michael looked up at her, and Ella saw something in his expression that terrified her. Determination mixed with something that looked dangerously like the love they used to share. "Then I'll make sure you have a home," he said. After breakfast, while Ella showered, Michael sat awkwardly with the twins on the villa's terrace. He'd negotiated million-dollar deals with Fortune 500 CEOs. He'd pitched to venture capitalists, been interviewed by Oprah. But he had no idea how to talk to his own children. "Do you like school?" he tried. Andre shrugged. "We don't go right now. Mama says we will soon." Another gut punch. They weren't even in school. "What do you like to do? For fun?" "We help Mama," Aaliyah said matter-of-factly. "Andre folds the small towels at the hotel. I help count money from tips." 6-year-old's working. His 6-year-old's working. What about playing games? Do you play games? The twins looked at each other, confused by the concept. Sometimes we go to the beach, Andre offered. But only the free part. And we have to be quiet so nobody tells us to leave. Michael felt something crack inside his chest. How would you both like to stay in Montego Bay for a while? I could get you enrolled in a good school. Get your mama some help. Mama won't accept, Aliyah said with absolute certainty. She says we don't need nobody's pity. She says we're survivors. She's right. You are survivors. Michael leaned forward. But you shouldn't have to be. You should just get to be kids. Andre's small hand suddenly reached out and touched Michael's watch. A Patek Philippe worth more than most cars. This costs more than Mama makes in a year, doesn't it? Probably, Michael admitted. Does having money make you happy? The question froze him. Because the answer, the real answer, was no. He'd spent 7 years accumulating wealth and success, and none of it had filled the Ella-shaped hole in his chest. No, Andre. It doesn't. Then why does everybody want it so bad? Before Michael could answer, Ella emerged, dressed in her same faded yellow dress. It was the only outfit she had. We should go, she said quietly. You've done enough. Where will you go? There's a shelter in Falmouth. They have space. A shelter. Michael stood. You're going to take our children to a shelter when there are 4 empty bedrooms right here. They are not your children. Ella's composure cracked. You don't get to call them that after one breakfast. You don't get to play daddy for a day then disappear back to your empire. I'm not disappearing. How long are you in Jamaica, Michael? A week? 2? What happens when your business deal is done and you fly back to New York? Am I supposed to explain to them why their father left again? The words hit like physical blows. What if I don't leave? He said. Everyone froze. What if I stay? Michael's voice was raw. What if I move my entire operation here? My company is virtual anyway. I can work from anywhere. What if I try to be what they need? Ella stared at him like he'd spoken a foreign language. You would give up New York? Your life there? What life? He laughed bitterly. A penthouse I'm never in? Business dinners with people I don't care about? I built an empire, Ella, and it's hollow. It's always been hollow. Because the only thing I ever really wanted was the life I destroyed 7 years ago. Tears spilled down Ella's cheeks. Don't say things like that. Don't give me hope when. When what? When you can't trust me. Michael stepped closer. You're right not to trust me. I haven't earned it. But let me try. Please. Let me prove that I can be better. Mama, Aliyah whispered, tugging on Ella's dress. I'm tired of moving. That broke her. Ella collapsed into a chair, her face in her hands, 7 years of exhaustion finally catching up. Michael knelt beside her. 1 month. Give me 1 month to prove I'm not going anywhere. I'll get you a place, separate from mine, your own space. I'll cover everything while you rest and figure out what you want. No strings. And if after 30 days you want me gone, I'll set up support and step back. But please, let me do this. Ella looked up, her eyes red and searching. Why? Why now? Because I never stopped loving you, Michael said simply. And I just found out I'm a father. I've already missed 7 years. I can't miss another day. The ocean waves crashed in the distance. A hummingbird darted past the terrace. Finally, Ella whispered, 1 month. But you hurt them, Michael, you hurt my babies, and no amount of money will save you from what I'll do. I know, he said. I wouldn't expect anything less. 2 weeks into their arrangement, Michael's phone rang at midnight. It was his private investigator. Mr. Allen, you're going to want to hear this about David Chudnovsky. Michael stepped onto the terrace of his villa, away from where he'd been reviewing school options for the twins. Talk to me. The woman in those photos from 7 years ago? I found her. Her name is Simone Patterson. She was an escort David hired specifically to impersonate Ella. Cost him $5,000. The investigator paused. But it gets worse. David didn't just want you gone from Jamaica. The software you two were developing in Kingston? He sold it 3 months after you left. To a Chinese tech firm. For $18 million. The world tilted. That's impossible. We both had to sign. He forged your signature. I have the documents. He's been hiding the money in offshore accounts for 7 years. Michael's grip on the phone tightened until his knuckles went white. He didn't just destroy my relationship. He stole from me. There's more. The investigator's voice went grim. I tracked Ella's movements after you left. She tried to reach you through David. Called him over 40 times in the first 3 months. He told her you'd moved on, gotten engaged to someone in New York, wanted nothing to do with her or any complications. The word hit Michael like a bullet. Complications. His children reduced to complications. She was 7 months pregnant when she showed up at his office in Kingston, begging him to tell her how to reach you. He had security throw her out. Michael couldn't breathe. Where is David now? New York. Just expanded his 3rd startup. Uses your early collaboration as his origin story in interviews. Michael ended the call and immediately dialed his lawyer. I need you to file charges. Fraud, forgery, theft, everything. And I want a forensic audit of every business dealing I ever had with David Chudnovsky. I want him destroyed. Michael. He spun around. Ella stood in the doorway of the villa, wrapped in one of his shirts because she still had so few clothes. She'd been spending evenings here, letting the twins swim in the pool, slowly, so slowly, letting her guard down. How much did you hear? He asked. Enough. Her voice trembled. He told me you were engaged. That you called me a mistake you needed to erase. Ella. I believed him. Tears streamed down her face. I was desperate and alone, and when he said you'd moved on, I believed him. I stopped trying to find you. Michael crossed to her, his hands hovering near her face, afraid to touch her. We both believed his lies. He stole 7 years from us, she whispered. 7 years you could have known your children. 7 years we could have been a family. I know. I hate him. The words burst out of her. I hate what he did to us. To them. Michael finally touched her, his thumbs wiping away her tears. He's going to pay for every second of suffering he caused you. Ella looked up at him, and in her eyes, Michael saw something shift. The wall she'd built between them cracked. What if we can't get those years back? She breathed. Then we make the next 7 count. His forehead touched hers. And the 7 after that. And every 7 after that until we run out of time. Michael. I love you, Ella. I never stopped. And if you give me a chance, just one real chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worth the risk. For 7 years, they'd been broken. But standing there in the Jamaican moonlight, they started to believe in repair. 3 days later, everything fell apart. Michael was at the villa with the twins, teaching Andre basic coding on his laptop while Alia colored beside them, when his phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Ella. Leaving a medical clinic in Montego Bay. Below it, ask her about the diagnosis she's hiding. Ask her why she's really letting you back into her life. A friend. His blood ran cold. He looked up to find Ella walking in from the kitchen, a forced smile on her tired face. Ella, what clinic were you at today? The color drained from her face. What? He showed her the message. Her hand flew to her mouth. Who sent this? She whispered. I don't know. But is it true? Are you sick? The twins looked up, sensing the shift in energy. Alia, Andre, go play in the pool, Ella said, her voice shaking. But Mama. Now. They scrambled outside. Once they were gone, Ella collapsed onto the couch. I was going to tell you. Tell me what? Michael's heart hammered against his ribs. I've been coughing for months. Having chest pains. I finally went to a free clinic last week. She looked up at him, her eyes hollow. They found a mass in my left lung. They want to do a biopsy, but I can't afford it. The wait list for public health care is 8 months. The world stopped. A mass, Michael repeated numbly. You mean? I don't know what I mean yet. It could be nothing. Could be. She couldn't finish the sentence. Why didn't you tell me? Because. Ella stood, anger and fear pouring out. Because the moment I tell you I might be dying, everything changes. Your guilt goes into overdrive. You throw money at the problem. And I won't, let you be with me out of obligation or pity. That's not what this is. Isn't it? Her laugh was broken. 2 weeks ago, you found us in the rain. Now you're playing house, talking about futures and second chances. But what if there is no future, Michael? What if I'm sick? Really sick? Will you still want this family, or will it become another burden? How can you even ask me that? Because 7 years ago, you left when things got hard. When you thought I betrayed you, you didn't fight for me. You just left. Tears streamed down her face. So forgive me for wondering if you'll leave again when I become a problem you can't code your way out of. The accusation hung in the air like poison. Before Michael could respond, his phone rang. His lawyer. Michael, we have a situation. David just filed a counter-lawsuit. He's claiming you stole the software, that he has emails proving you planned to cut him out, and he's leaked the story to tech blogs. Your reputation is being shredded online. I don't care about my reputation. There's more. He's filed for emergency injunctions to freeze your accounts pending the investigation. You could be broke by Monday. Michael's empire, everything he'd built, was crumbling. Let him, Michael said. I have lawyers. We'll fight. But when he turned back to Ella, she was backing away, shaking her head. No. No. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'm destroying your life. Ella. My children are already traumatized. If you lose everything because of us, because of legal fees and medical bills and everything I bring with me, she grabbed her purse. We should go. Before this gets worse. Don't do this. I'm sorry, Michael. I thought maybe we could, but I can't watch you sacrifice everything. Not for me. Not when I might not even. Her voice broke. She called for the twins. They came running, confused and scared. Say goodbye to Michael, Ella said, her voice hollow. Mama, no. Alia's eyes filled with tears. Why are we leaving? Because we have to. Andre grabbed Michael's leg. Don't let her take us. Please. I don't want to go back to the shelter. Michael's heart shattered. Ella, please. Don't punish them for being afraid of losing me. I'm protecting them. Ella shouted. From getting attached to something that won't last. From hoping for a father who'll disappear when things get too real. I'm not going anywhere. Everyone goes. The scream tore out of her. Everyone leaves. Michael. My parents left. You left. And soon my body might leave me too. So I'm done hoping. I'm done believing in happy endings that don't exist for people like me. She grabbed the twins' hands and walked out the door. Into the rain that had started falling. Just like the night he'd found them. Michael stood in the empty villa, watching through the window as Ella flagged down a taxi with his children. His phone buzzed again. Another unknown message. She's been lying about more than her health. Ask yourself why she really came to Montego Bay. Ask yourself who told her you'd be here. A friend. And Michael realized with growing horror that someone was orchestrating all of this. Someone wanted them apart. By the time he ran outside, the taxi was gone. And so was his family. Michael stared at the message, his programmer's brain suddenly clicking pieces together. Who told her you'd be here? He'd never mentioned his Montego Bay trip publicly. Only 3 people knew. His assistant, his lawyer, and David. His hands shaking, Michael scrolled through old emails. There, from 3 weeks ago. David asking about his travel plans, seeming friendly, reconnecting after their falling out. Michael had mentioned the Jamaica project without thinking twice. Another search. He found Ella's social media, barely used, but there. A friend request from a fake profile 2 months ago. Messages he could only partially see, but enough to glimpse. Michael Allen never forgot you. Going to be in Montego Bay. Deserves to know about his children. David had orchestrated everything. Not just their breakup 7 years ago, but their reunion too. But why bring them back together just to tear them apart again? Unless. Michael's stomach dropped as realization hit. David's counter-lawsuit wasn't about money. It was about destroying Michael completely, professionally and personally. Making him lose everything, including the family he'd just found. Maximum devastation. Michael grabbed his keys and ran. He found them at a church shelter in Falmouth, 40 minutes away. The building was run down, paint peeling, nothing like the life he'd wanted to give them. Ella sat on a bench outside while the twins slept inside, her face in her hands. She looked up when his car pulled up, and he saw she'd been crying. "How did you find us?" Her voice was hoarse. "I'll always find you." Michael sat beside her, keeping space between them. "And I know who's been sending those messages. Who's been manipulating everything." He told her about David. About the orchestrated reunion, the messages designed to push them apart, the lawsuit meant to break him. "He wants me destroyed," Michael finished. "And he knows the only way to really destroy me is to take you away. Because losing you again would hurt more than losing every dollar I have." Ella was silent for a long moment. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I don't care about the money. I don't care about my reputation or my company or anything except you and those children sleeping in there." He finally looked at her. "You asked if I'd stay when things got hard. Here's your answer. I'm staying. Whether you're sick or healthy. Whether I'm rich or broke. Whether David takes everything or nothing. I'm staying." "Michael. I lost 7 years because I didn't fight for you. I'm not making that mistake again." His voice cracked. "Fight me if you want. Push me away if you need to. But I'm not leaving. Even if you go, I'll be right here, proving every single day that I'm not going anywhere." Tears streamed down Ella's face. "I'm scared." "I know. What if the biopsy comes back bad? Then we fight it together. What if David wins? Then we rebuild together." Michael took her hand, the first time she'd let him since that night in the rain. "I spent 7 years building an empire alone. I don't want to do anything alone anymore." Ella looked at their intertwined fingers. "I came to Montego Bay because someone sent me messages saying you were here. Saying you'd been looking for me. I thought maybe." She laughed through her tears. "I thought maybe it was fate giving us another chance. I was stupid. Not stupid. Hopeful. And whoever sent those messages, even if it was David manipulating us, they were right about one thing." Michael lifted her chin gently. "I have been looking for you. Every single day for 7 years. I just didn't know it until I saw you again." "I still don't trust easy," she whispered. "I know. I'll earn it. And I'm still terrified." "Me too." He smiled sadly. "But maybe we can be terrified together." Ella studied his face for a long moment. Then, slowly, she leaned her head against his shoulder. "One day at a time," she asked. "One day at a time," he promised. Inside the shelter, Aliyah appeared at the window. When she saw her mother and Michael sitting together, her face broke into the first real smile he'd ever seen from her. If you're rooting for this family, smash that subscribe button. The finale is about to blow your mind. Michael's phone buzzed. His lawyer, David, made a mistake. Found proof he forged documents. "We can take him down. Need you back in New York ASAP." Michael looked at Ella. At the shelter. At his daughter's hopeful face in the window. "Tell them to handle it," he texted back. "I'm exactly where I need to be." For the first time in 7 years, he chose love over ambition. And it felt like coming home. 1 week later, Michael stood in a New York courtroom with Ella beside him. She'd insisted on coming. "If we're doing this together," she'd said. Then we're doing all of it together. The twins were with Michael's mother in Brooklyn, a reunion that had involved tears, apologies, and Grandma Rose immediately spoiling them with cookies and stories about when your daddy was small. Now, facing David across the courtroom, Michael felt Ella's hand slip into his. David looked confident. Smug. He'd built his defense on forged emails and fabricated witnesses, betting that Michael would settle quietly to avoid the scandal. He'd bet wrong. Mr. Chudnovsky, Michael's lawyer began, you claim Mr. Allen stole software you developed. Is that correct? Yes. He cut me out and took everything. Interesting. The lawyer pulled up a screen. Because this is the original code repository. Every keystroke is time-stamped and attributed. Would you like to guess who wrote 92% of the original software? David's face paled. And these emails you submitted as evidence. The lawyer continued. Forensic analysis shows they were created last month using a backdated template. You didn't just forge Mr. Allen's signature 7 years ago. You forged evidence for this trial. The courtroom erupted. But Michael's lawyer wasn't done. I'd also like to introduce Simone Patterson to the court. A woman in her 30s stood up from the gallery. The woman from the photos. Ms. Patterson, can you tell the court about your interaction with Mr. Chudnovsky 7 years ago? Simone's voice was clear. He paid me $5,000 to pose for photos at the Pegasus Hotel, wearing a specific dress, meeting with a male model. He told me it was for a marketing campaign. Later, I saw those photos used to break up his business partner's relationship. David shot to his feet. She's lying. This is a setup. We have bank records, the lawyer said smoothly. $5,000 transferred from your account to Ms. Patterson's on the exact date in question. We also have testimony from the hotel staff who saw you directing the photo shoot. The judge's gavel came down hard. Mr. Chudnovsky, you will sit down. But Michael stood up instead. Your Honor, may I address the court? The judge nodded. Michael turned to face David directly. 7 years ago, you didn't just steal money from me. You stole my family. You made a woman I loved think I'd abandoned her. You made her raise our children in poverty while I had resources that could have helped. You orchestrated her suffering for your own gain. David's mask cracked. You would have stayed in Jamaica. You would have wasted your talent on that. On the woman I loved. Michael's voice was steel. On being a father? Yeah, I would have. And I would have been happy. But you couldn't stand that. Could you? You needed me miserable and driven so I'd build empires you could profit from. I made you. David shouted. You were nothing before me. No. Ella stood up, her voice ringing through the courtroom. He was everything before you. He was kind and loyal and believed the best in people. You didn't make him. You just broke him. But he's not broken anymore. The judge reviewed the evidence in silence. Then, Mr. Chudnovsky, I'm finding in favor of Mr. Allen on all counts. You are ordered to pay restitution of $18 million plus interest. Additionally, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal fraud charges. David's empire collapsed in real time. As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Michael ignored them all, focused only on Ella, who swayed suddenly on her feet. Ella. I'm fine. Just tired. But her face was pale. His phone rang. The medical clinic in Jamaica. Mr. Allen? We have Ms. Dawson's biopsy results. Is she available? Michael's heart stopped. He handed the phone to Ella with shaking hands. She listened in silence, her face unreadable. Then she hung up. Ella. Michael could barely breathe. She looked up at him, tears streaming down her face, and smiled. Benign. It's benign. Just scar tissue from an old infection. She laughed, the sound breaking with relief. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. Michael pulled her into his arms right there on the courthouse steps, and for the first time in 7 years, he felt whole. That night, back in Brooklyn, they told the twins everything. About the lies. About David. About the sickness that wasn't a sickness. About how sometimes life breaks people apart, but love can put them back together. So you're staying? Andre asked Michael, his eyes wide with hope. Like, forever staying? Michael looked at Ella. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Yeah, buddy. Forever staying. Aliyah climbed into Michael's lap, the first time she'd voluntarily touched him. Good. Because Mama smiles now. She didn't used to smile. Comment below if you're crying happy tears. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button. Michael held his daughter close, breathing in the moment. His son leaned against his other side. Ella sat beside them, her hand in his. 7 years ago, he'd lost everything that mattered. Today, he'd won it all back. 6 months later, Michael stood on a beach in Ocho Rios, watching the sunrise paint the Caribbean in shades of gold and pink. So much had changed. David was serving a 5-year sentence for fraud and forgery. The $18 million in restitution had been paid in full. Michael had quietly donated most of it to shelters and organizations supporting single mothers in Jamaica, a tribute to Ella's strength and every woman who'd survived what she'd survived. His tech company was now based in Kingston, employing over 100 Jamaicans. He'd restructured everything, building something that mattered more than profit margins: community impact, ethical practices, work-life balance. Because he'd learned what actually constituted a successful life. It wasn't the money. It was the sound of Andre's laugh when Michael taught him to swim. It was Aliyah's tight hugs before school each morning. It was watching Ella sleep peacefully, no longer coughing, no longer afraid. It was this. Family. Love. Second chances. You're up early. He turned to find Ella walking toward him across the sand, barefoot, wearing a white sundress that caught the morning breeze. She was healthy now, had gained weight, the color back in her cheeks, the light back in her eyes. Couldn't sleep, Michael admitted. Too excited. Today was the day. Ella smiled knowingly. They're going to love it. Together, they'd bought a house, a beautiful 4-bedroom property overlooking the ocean in Ocho Rios. Not a mansion. Just a home. With a yard for the twins, a porch where Ella could read, an office where Michael could work. A place that was theirs. The twins were still asleep back at the rental, unaware that when they woke up, their lives would change again. But this time, for joy instead of survival. Are you nervous? Ella asked, slipping her hand into his. Terrified, Michael laughed. But the good kind of terrified. They'd been taking things slow, rebuilding trust, creating new memories, learning each other all over again. They lived in separate spaces but spent every day together. Family dinners, beach trips, homework help, movie nights where Andre fell asleep on Michael's lap and Aliyah narrated the entire plot despite having seen it before. Normal. Beautiful. Normal. But Michael was ready for more. Ella, he said, turning to face her fully. 7 years ago, I had a ring picked out. A simple band from a jeweler in Ocho Rios. Her breath caught. I never bought it. I regretted that for years. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. So last month, I went back to that same jeweler. And I finally bought the ring I should have bought then. Michael. I know we're taking things slow. I know we're still healing. But I also know that I don't want to waste another second of this life not being fully, completely, officially yours. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold band with a single diamond, elegant, understated, pure. Ella Dawson, will you marry me? Tears streamed down her face. You really stayed. I really stayed. You chose us over everything. Best decision I ever made. He smiled. So what do you say? Will you let me spend the rest of my life making up for the years I missed? Yes. The word burst out of her on a laugh. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Michael slipped the ring onto her finger, and then they were kissing, soft and sweet and full of promises kept and futures bright with possibility. When they pulled apart, they found Aliyah and Andre standing at the edge of the beach, still in their pajamas, watching with matching grins. Grandma Rose brought us, Aliyah announced. She said something special was happening. Michael's mother stood behind them, wiping tears from her eyes, beaming. "Come here, you two," Michael called. The twins ran across the sand and crashed into them. Michael scooped them both up, and Ella wrapped her arms around all of them. "We have something to tell you," Ella said. "Michael and I are getting married." "Does that mean you're really our dad now?" Andre asked. "Like, legal and everything?" "If that's okay with you," Michael said softly. "Can we call you Daddy instead of Michael?" Aaliyah's voice was small, hopeful. Michael's eyes filled with tears. "I would love that more than anything in the world." "Daddy," Aaliyah tested the word, then smiled. "I like it." "Me too," Andre agreed. Then, with the beautiful randomness of 7-year-olds, "Can we see the new house now? Grandma said it has a pool." Everyone laughed. As they walked back toward the car, Ella hung back with Michael for a moment. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For coming back. For staying. For loving us even when it was hard." "Ella." He stopped walking, cupping her face in his hands. "You're the strongest person I've ever known. You survived things that would have broken most people. You raised 2 incredible children alone. You never gave up, even when you had every reason to." He kissed her forehead. "I should be thanking you for giving me another chance. For letting me be part of this family." "We're better together," she said simply. "Yeah," Michael agreed. "We really are." If this story touched your heart, do me a favor. Leave a comment telling me what part hit you the hardest. And subscribe if you haven't already, because we're just getting started with these emotional journeys. Your support means everything. 3 months later, Michael and Ella married on the same beach where he'd proposed. It was small, just family and close friends. Aaliyah was the flower girl, Andre the ring bearer. Both wore matching outfits and couldn't stop grinning. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Andre stage whispered, "Don't even think about it," and everyone laughed. Michael's vows were simple. "I promise to choose you every single day. To trust you always. To be the father our children deserve and the partner you've always needed. I lost you once. I'll spend forever making sure I never lose you again." Ella's vows broke everyone's hearts. "You came back when I thought no one would. You loved me when I didn't know how to love myself anymore. You gave my children a father and gave me back my faith in second chances. I promise to build a life with you full of truth, trust, and more love than we know what to do with." When they kissed, the twins cheered louder than anyone. That night, tucking Aaliyah and Andre into bed in their new home, Michael marveled at the journey. From a rainy street corner to this. From broken to whole. From lost to found. "Daddy," Aaliyah murmured, half asleep. "I'm glad Mama found you in Montego Bay." "Me too, sweetheart." "Do you think everything happens for a reason?" Michael thought about David's lies, the 7 lost years, the suffering that could have been avoided. Then he looked at his daughter, brilliant, resilient, kind despite everything she'd endured. "I think people make choices," he said carefully. "Some choices hurt us, but we get to choose how we heal. And sometimes, if we're really lucky, we get to choose love." "I choose love," Aaliyah announced, then promptly fell asleep. Michael found Ella on the porch, watching the ocean under the stars. "They are down," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. She leaned into him. "Our first night as a married couple in our own home. How does it feel?" "Like everything I dreamed of when I was sleeping on park benches with 2 babies, praying for a miracle." She turned in his arms. "You were always my miracle, Michael. Even when you were gone. And you were always my home," he whispered. "Even when I was too stupid to realize it." They stood there, holding each other as the Caribbean breeze whispered around them, the sound of the ocean mixing with the distant laughter of their children's dreams. 7 years ago, they'd been destroyed by lies. Today, they were rebuilt by truth. And tomorrow? Tomorrow they'd wake up together, make breakfast as a family, help with homework, argue over silly things, laugh until their stomachs hurt, and fall asleep in each other's arms. Tomorrow, and every tomorrow after that, they'd choose love. Again, and again, and again. Because some love stories don't end when they're broken. Some love stories are just beginning. We have come to the end of the story. Thank you for watching to the end. Share your opinion about this story in the comments. I like getting feedback from my audience. And also, make sure you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our heartwarming stories.